Good evening. Thank you for your introduction, Andrei. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I will briefly tell you about what's going on in the railway industry. Let me point out anything that has been said so far about other sectors can be applied to the situation at RZD in railways. AI is being introduced more and more, including in the areas where you don't have specific security and safety requirements, where you need support for decision-making, for diagnostics. But of course, one of the areas that is most interesting is the issue of complexity and ethics. And of course, we're talking about driverless traffic, and I'm convinced that this is easier for railways than it is for cars. Of course, there are other complexities and difficulties given the distances trains to cover, but there are a lot of issues we deal with. A lot of questions are being asked about safety, but I think this is a new solution that is offered by AI, and it requires different approaches in terms of testing this approach, certification, and this is a major step forward we need to take. And once dealt with, it will change how our railroads and railways operate, how our European colleagues' undertakings operate. And this was recently discussed at one of the conferences on rail. They are all discussing how possible it is to move on to driverless trains and what safety mechanisms we need to build in. If you look at our railways, we have about 120,000 train engineers and their assistants. That's a lot of routine work. We have 63,000 dispatchers and those that maintain the rolling stocks and rail cars. That's a lot of routine and monotone work, and it's going to be slowly replaced by automation. People will stay and they will be doing other things, and AI will be playing a supportive role, and people will not be doing the routine work anymore. Otherwise, or conversely, they will be dealing with complex tasks that they have to deal with from time to time. And there's a quantum leap that we need to make to that stage. In order to get there, we need to develop standardized descriptions. And that is something that is slowing down the implementation. Russian railways and many international organizations are trying to actively develop standards and descriptions to digitalize data sets and resolve the issue of data confidentiality. All of that is going to be conducive to introducing these technologies. And as Mr. Belazarov announced, we are going to try and launch our first driverless train next year. We are experimenting on that, and that's going to be on the Moscow Central Circle, and the budget has already been allocated. The introduction of AI results in the elimination of some professions, and some will emerge, and there's a need to train people to fill the vacancies. One of such jobs is the operator machinist that will be responsible for running several trains at once, and therefore that means a lot of workload. There will be a different set of requirements applicable to these people. There will be additional technical staff that will be necessary to maintain these driverless trains. They have to be really technically competent, and of course the dispatchers will have to act if certain contingencies and emergencies arise. Otherwise, everything else will be handled by the AI. And I'm convinced that these changes is something that awaits us in the nearest future, and we would do our utmost to ensure that such systems will be put on the track and they will allow the railways to remain competitive. Thank you, Andrei.